Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on X Twitter at Movies TV Mad and on Instagram and on Threads at Movies TV Mad X. A very warm welcome to Sunday's edition of the Movies TV Mad Daily. You caught me. I wasn't sure what day this video's for because I'm always recording these videos a day before they're actually available to you. So May the 4th be with you. I'm recording this on May the 4th, but it will actually be uploaded for you to view on May the 5th because my internet is crap and it takes 9 hours, around 9 hours to upload a 30-minute video. So frustrating, so I do it through the night while I'm asleep. But what are you going to do? I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I want to celebrate May the 4th, the original release date for Star Wars, or whatever it is, you know, I'm sure there's some, all George Lucas's films released on May the 4th? I don't even know that, but I do love Star Wars. You're not a real Star Wars fan, are you, if you don't know that? Fuck it. You know, it's my sister's birthday on day of recording this video. I didn't even know what date it was today. I didn't realise it was her birthday. I don't even know what day it is half the time. So don't expect me to be an anorak who knows everything about Star Wars. But I love Star Wars, or I love George Lucas's Star Wars. And today I want to celebrate on today's video the fact that it is May the 4th on the day of recording this video. Because I love George Lucas's Star Wars. I love all 6 of his movies. I also love Dave Filoni's Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels. I think that's the Star Wars that I love and adore myself. Let me be absolutely clear, even though I'm not a big fan or a fan at all of Disney Star Wars, if you like Disney Star Wars, that's fine. That's okay. Now, I get frustrated, like we all do, because of the, mechanism of social media. If someone likes something you don't like, it's really hard, isn't it? It's really, really hard to kind of not say anything. We shouldn't really attack people for loving stuff we don't like. I think it's wrong and it's bad form. I've kind of done it before because, social media is very reactive. But even though I've done it before, I still think it's very, very wrong. But I don't particularly like Disney Star Wars. So some people will say to me, because of what Disney have done to Star Wars, and apologies if you do love Disney Star Wars, by the way, you're very much welcome to keep on watching this video, because I'm not going to shit on you, or shit on it that deeply. Maybe I'll shit on it just a little bit, because this is a celebratory video about Star Wars. People tell me, well, Star Wars is dead because of what Disney have done to Star Wars. Star Wars isn't dead. George Lucas's Star Wars isn't dead. His 6 movies are not dead. In fact, I think in America you can go in selected cinemas, go and watch Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. And in our celebratory chat about Star Wars, we should really start with The Phantom Menace. That's always been shat on by certain people. You see, there's Star Wars fans of the original trilogy, or people in general, maybe even the Phantom Menace, the critical drinker, who think they're the experts of movie making now. They think they're the judge, jury and executioner. They think they know more about making movies than people who make movies, than other people who love movies. They love attacking Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon movies. As I say, they are the judge, jury and executioner now, right? No, wrong. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, even the Phantom Menace. I follow them. I like a lot of the stuff that they do. I don't agree with them politically, but I think they are interesting and they do expose many, many facets about the modern, forgettable entertainment industry. But, art is subjective. So just because you like something that I don't, doesn't make you wrong and me right. It doesn't make me wrong and you right. It's just an opinion. I'm not here to argue, to win. You can't win an argument. People say, I won, did you see me take that person down? Yay! Right, idiotic behaviour. I've never won an argument. I've only got my point of view. I'm on social media, I do videos to express my opinions than go and have a cigarette, drink a beer or whatever I'm going to do, right? Maybe go off and meet a hooker. Don't know, right? Joking, I don't meet any hookers, right? Just in case my girlfriend's watching. But, yeah, got myself in a bit of trouble there. Honestly, I can't even afford a prostitute. I mean, no, it's not happening, right? Honestly. Anyway, so where was I? We're talking about Star Wars. How did we go on to hookers from Star Wars? Anyway, right? So it's about an opinion. That's it. I'm here to give my opinion, not to win arguments, not to go to war with people. Now, as I say, social media is an opinion and it's a domino effect. You say your opinion and I give my opinion. The thing is, some people don't have, you know, the mental health to accept an opinion they don't agree with, so they want to go to war with people. I mean, I've quote-tweeted people on Twitter before whose opinions I don't agree with. I've never swore at anyone before. I've never attacked someone's appearance before. I've never attacked someone's punctuation. As I've mentioned on a multitude of times on my Twitter and here, I am dyslexic, which means, and I rush my post. I'm not going to lie, I rush my post. I review a Smallville episode on Twitter every day, and the spelling and the punctuation, and sometimes I miss out words because I'm rushing, and I'm dyslexic. People who don't agree with me on what I'm saying will call out my dyslexia. I mean, dyslexia is like a disability. It is. And people will call out your punctuation, lack of spelling, missing out a word, to kind of make fun of you because they're triggered by what you're saying. I won. Did you see what I did to him? No, you literally took a disabled person and kicked them when they were down. You didn't win an argument because you couldn't. You couldn't take down my argument, so you had to attack my disability. Now, I don't respond. Maybe I'll put some gif up or something, then mute them. That's it. I'm not interested in going to war with people. And I'm not interested in going to war with people about Star Wars. You know, Star Wars was one of the first movies I ever saw. Star Wars 77, Star Wars A New Hope. And I think when I first saw it, it wasn't even called A New Hope. It was just Star Wars. But I think that may be the second or third movie I ever saw. Because, you know, the first few movies I saw weren't in cinemas. We weren't taken to the cinema as small children. I think I probably didn't see my first movie till I was maybe 9 or something. I can't remember, 10, 11, in the cinema. And that would have been Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I remember that experience, my first experience, because I was dying for a pee. You know, oh, thanks for sharing, Mick, yeah. But anyway, that's why I remember watching that movie. Great movie, by the way, wasn't it? First movie I ever saw on the telly box, first movie I ever saw was Superman 78, which had a great impression on me and really made me not, I mean, as a kid, want to be Superman, but then wanting to write and direct a Superman movie. And I maybe want to be an actor and a director and a writer. But Star Wars 77 was, you know, obviously the first Star Wars film I ever saw. And I actually had, you know, I remember I used to go, Saturdays I used to go to work with my dad. And we got home and my brother said, well, guess what? My best mate's mum just took us to a double feature. Star Wars A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. Guess what? Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father. Well, thanks, bro. You've just spoiled the biggest spoilers, one of the biggest spoilers in movie freaking history. So, and I never got to see The Empire Strikes Back for ages until it premiered on ITV over in the UK back in the day. So maybe I even saw Return of the Jedi before Empire. I don't know how it all worked out. I went to the cinema to see Return of the Jedi. But I remember watching Star Wars for the first time. I remember the ads on ITV for the British television premiere of Star Wars. And it all looked freaking amazing because I was a big fan. I think I saw, you know, the Buck Rogers TV series with, I think, was it Jill Gerard at the time? That used to be on every Saturday on ITV, LWT. And I really got into that. And I thought that, you know, is it not Jill? Gil Gerard, right? Is it Gil or is it Jill? Anyway, I think it's Gil Gerard. And I thought Gil was playing Han Solo because when I saw the little promos, Harrison Ford looked like Gil a little bit. Anyway, it was Harrison Ford. I knew nothing about Star Wars. I watched that movie. We had a VHS recorder at the time. I recorded it. I paused the ads. I used to love doing that. as well. And the experience was fundamental. It wasn't deep to me. I was a kid watching this amazing film that felt good and looked good. It was amazing. I didn't really think much about the effects, by the way. They were there. They looked tremendous. The film looked tremendous, but it captivated my imagination. And that's something, if we pause for a moment and talk about physical effects and the effects that George did for Star Wars 77. I've spoken a lot in the past about modern cinematography just being about pushing a few buttons and using high-res cameras and IMAX cameras and the Phoenix camera, whatever they're fucking using today, right? It isn't real cinematography as far as I'm concerned. And I've spoken about, you know, computer-generated images, CGI, taking the ability of the viewer to use their imagination. It's all there now. It's all given to us. It's all spoon-fed to us. We can see it all. There's no room for using our imagination now. But with the old effects, with miniatures and matte paintings, you still could use your imagination. It wasn't all there for us. It was very, very interestingly done. And I absolutely love the old way of making movies. I wish that old way would come back. Maybe that's not viable. Maybe that's not possible. Certainly, in my imaginary movie studio, that's how we would make movies. I'm not interested in computer-generated images. For me, CGI looks fake. Even the best CGI, even the stuff made by Snyder. Snyder is the best at computer-generated images. Yeah, I wouldn't say that Snyder's the best cinematographer or the best director. He's the best. You know, he's turned pushing buttons into an art form. I think that's the biggest compliment I can play Zack Snyder. Or pay Zack Snyder, not play Zack Snyder. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? When you see CGI, however good it is, you know it's not fucking real. But it's interesting when you see, and even though when you watch Superman 78, of course you know Christopher Reeve can't really fucking fly. But it looks so real. It actually looks like he's really flying. Even though you probably know that the background isn't real, you can kind of see, even though the background looks great, there's nothing wrong with the actual effects, and they've aged so well. You know a man can't fly, but it looks like he's physically flying. When we've watched Man of Steel, or Superman Returns, or Superman and Lois, it's, you know, it's CGI. It's mostly green screen, right? So, you know, it doesn't, CGI, you know CGI is fake from the very beginning. You know it's generated on a computer. So however well it's done, you know it's fake. And I think that's the difference between miniatures and matte paintings. And putting a man in a harness, you know, and actually making him fly. And it just, in Superman 78, it just looked more real. Anyway, we're celebrating and talking about Star Wars. So Star Wars 77 is a great achievement because mostly they have to do everything in camera. And I think that's important to add. Most of Star Wars 77 is in camera. Of course, there's stuff that they had to, you know, do afterwards, and I get that, but it still looks so real. And the thing is, nothing looks fake in Star Wars 77. Star Wars 77 is an amazing achievement, not just for its effects and miniatures and matte paintings, but its music by John Williams is another important effect. But also, you know, what people maybe don't talk about so much is the storytelling. But there's another thing. We'll get to the storytelling in Star Wars 77 in a minute. You know, it's the editing. George tells stories, or told stories, via cuts. And the way that Star Wars A New Hope, Star Wars 77, is cut is amazing. Now, he didn't edit the movie on his own. His former wife helped. But there's this weird kind of thing that's followed George, that George couldn't do anything, couldn't make a movie to save his life, and it was his wife that saved the movie. That's absolute bollocks as far as I'm concerned, if you ask me. It's George's script. It's George's vision. He needed help putting it together. You know, I think he's a solid director. But yeah, probably in terms of having the patience to getting a performance out of actors, maybe that's something that wasn't George's strong point. But it was his vision. It was his idea. And, you know, nobody makes a movie on their own. No one's in a movie on their own. It is impossible. You need collaborators, great collaborators, to support you. But you take George Lucas out of that process. Do you think you get a Star Wars movie? Of course you fucking don't. So it's nonsense to give the credit to everyone else but George, and, you know, this stuff, you know, saying he's not a very, very good director. Well, at the end of the day, he's George Lucas. He created Star Wars. Without him, there'd be no Star Wars. So shut the fuck up. And that's the end of that little rumour. And Empire Strikes Back went down as the greatest Star Wars film. I neither think that The Empire Strikes Back is the greatest Star Wars film, and I neither think that The Dark Knight is the greatest out of the Nolan trilogy or all the Batman movies that have ever been made. For me, Batman Begins is the strongest Batman movie ever made. I'm a huge fan of Batman Returns as well. And I do think that Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice should be there in the ranking somewhere. But that's how I feel. So I feel Star Wars 77, personally, is a much better film than Empire. People talk about Empire being a really, really dark movie. I'm not sure about that. There's moments that are dark, you know, obviously Han Solo and Leia and, you know, being caught by Darth Vader revealing that Luke, you know, is his son, and, you know, Luke losing his hands. These are dark moments. But I think when you look at the movie, for example, The Empire Strikes Back isn't as dark as Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. That really is a fucking dark movie. And that actually does, you know, finish off, you know, Spock is dead at the end of that movie. Han Solo's obviously dead. But I do think that Wrath of Khan is a much darker movie. And if I'm honest, I probably prefer Wrath of Khan to Empire Strikes Back. I'm not trying to be controversial here. I love Empire Strikes Back. It's a great movie. I just feel that Star Wars 77 has heart. Also, Star Wars A New Hope is the kind of film that you can watch as a one-off or as a continuing saga. And I think that's interesting. He was very clever. He thought to himself, I'll make a film, you know, and if I can't make any more, you know, that's it. It's a dead end, but it's got the happy ending. It's got the medals at the end. But if we get all the other movies I want to make, then it's part of a saga. So everyone loves the original Star Wars trilogy. So why do so many people hate the prequels? And, you know, this is the... If you're wondering why George Lucas sold Lucasfilm, it's because people went after him for the Star Wars prequels. You know, let's talk about this like reasonable people. And I know a lot of you were upset with the overuse of CGI. Now, you know what I think about CGI. It's a case of pushing... I don't think it's artistic. I think it's a case of pushing buttons. And if you know how to push buttons, you can do it right. Now, I don't have editing software. I don't know how I would put different clips of different things while I'm narrating a video. I don't know how to do that. Even if I had editing software, I wouldn't know where to fucking start. But if I knew what buttons to press, obviously, I would know where to start. So, let's have a little kangaroo call. Was George Lucas right or wrong to go totally CGI, first of all? Well, listen. It's George's idea. It's George's vision. He can do whatever he wants. That's the difference. Disney Star Wars, right, has been bought. It's become very extremist, very politically, you know, ideologically based. It's very different. And they've gone after men and, you know, very toxic. And it isn't very entertaining. I think Star Wars The Force Awakens is a movie that doesn't really make much sense. And, you know, in the way it's going, it's just a rerun of A New Hope. But at least it's slightly more entertaining than the others were. Not by much. It was the wrong direction. It was just it was a mystery box movie. It was typical J.J. Abrams. But J.J., to do a mystery box, to set up a mystery box, you've got to do the other two movies. Well, you walked away from the second movie and you allowed them to bring in Rian Johnson, which was a huge mistake. But yeah, so let's go back to the prequels. So it was George's vision. He had every right to do what he did with it. Now, I think fundamentally, if you look at the storytelling, now a lot of people don't like the storytelling in The Phantom Menace. I do. I think it's great. First of all, the man sets up Palpatine wonderfully in the first movie. He sets him up as this, chess player, this tactician, this manipulator of these people. And, Palpatine's plan through the three of the prequels is genius. It really is Palpatine's movie in a lot of ways. And it's very clever. The manipulation of Anakin and everyone around him. The manipulation of Queen Amidala in the first movie. And Queen Amidala is great in The Phantom Menace as well. I thought Natalie Portman did a great job. Natalie Portman doesn't seem very proud of The Phantom Menace. You should be. You were amazing. You were young. It was your early days as an artist, as a performer. I thought you did really, really well, Natalie. But I think the storytelling in all three films is great. But I think when people heard the prequels were happening, they expected a rinse and repeat of the original trilogy. That's what they wanted. I was sitting in the cinema and I remember someone saying, well, there's not even a Han Solo type in this movie. This is so bad. It's not bad. It's different. It's different to what you expected. And it was overly CGI. I think that finally George could use CGI, computer-generated images, and he wanted to make a whole movie. Basically, I think that whole movie was a green screen, I think. And I think the other two movies were basically making a movie from a green screen. And it's a different language. And George really started all of this. I mean, basically, one of the departments, from Lucasfilm and ILM and all of that, kind of, I think, invented all of this in a way, or, were one of the developers of this technology. And I said at the time, people said, well, as long as they use it sparingly, it's fine. And they haven't now. Instead of standing outside of a building on location now, they have CGI fucking buildings. That's how pathetic, that's how low, we have sunk to in entertainment. Not only can't they write, can they barely direct, now everything is just fake and it's, built around a green screen. So, listen, it isn't my idea of filmmaking, but that's what George wanted to do. And it still looks good. The CGI stands up today. Even though, as I said earlier, you know that CGI is fake because it's CGI. It looks like CGI. You know what CGI is. There's no getting away from that. But it looks great. I love the pod race. And I mean, people who have a go at Jake Lloyd for his performance, don't remember, this kid is working around a green screen. He probably wouldn't have done that before. I thought he did a wonderful job in the pod, pretending he's actually racing. This is a small kid. So I correct people in saying, actually, 99.9% of this kid's performance was great. But people heard reports of George having problems with Jake in, getting performances out of him. But that's understandable at the end of the day. Even with adult actors, it's hard to get performances out of some of them. And George Lucas, as I said earlier, wasn't the most patient of people in finding the process of acting. And I mean, even Harrison Ford in Empire of Dreams says, George expects you just to find it, and you can't just find it, as Harrison said. And being an actor, as well as a director myself, amateur of course, but people are going to start saying, well, what have you made then? Jack shit. But yeah, anyway, nothing that you've ever seen in cinemas, in other words. But yeah, so I know it takes patience to allow an actor to find something. And, luckily I'm a very, very patient dude. And I think you need patience. I think that's one of the things. What you need to be a great director is patience. You need communication skills. And I think without them, you get into trouble with other actors that you're directing, you know, because I think if an actor doesn't deliver a great performance, it's not on the actor, it's on you as a director. So I think the only thing what I see in The Phantom Menace that I didn't like from Jake is when his mum is cuddling him and he's kind of acting like he don't want her to cuddle her after he's won the pod race. That was a bit odd. I'm assuming that George kept that in because they just couldn't get that bit out of him. Maybe they were better off just cutting that bit out. Maybe I would have cut that bit out. But they wanted to show what a strong bond, obviously Anakin and his mother had. But I thought Jake Lloyd mostly did really, really well. I also loved him in that Christmas movie with Arnie, Jingle All the Way. So he was a good little child actor, but he was a child. So, and the way people complained about him, but complained about everything about The Phantom Menace, was, you know, I didn't agree with it. But, because I am planning a video, maybe in a few days, a few weeks, talking about how everyone has a right to complain about entertainment, as long as it's done constructively. We'll get there. We'll talk about that. So I don't want to criticise people who hated the prequels. I think that's wrong. And I'm not going to go there. You know, like I don't want to criticise people who love Disney Star Wars. But on the May the 4th, you know, on this anniversary of this release date, that's when I'm recording this video, of course, not the date. I'll remind you that you're watching this video. This is how I'm celebrating Star Wars. Later on, I shall watch Empire of Dreams. I will binge all 6 movies. I don't have Clone Wars, which I love, or Star Wars Rebels that I love. But I definitely, certainly will be watching Empire of Dreams. And if you go onto that disc, of course, there's 3 kind of short little documentaries that are also great as well. You also see Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor practicing their lightsaber fighting, and they become very, very competitive. And that's great as well, because it was at the time we got all of that, when it was the build-up and marketing campaign for Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, which is one of my favourite Star Wars films. There's no question about that. I also enjoyed, Attack of the Clones. A lot of people complained about the chemistry between, you know, Natalie Portman and, you know, Hayden Christensen. I mean, listen, most couples you see in film don't have, like, the chemistry. You know, top chemistry is really hard to find. You know, Gillian Anderson and David Duchovny reportedly didn't like each other, but they had wonderful chemistry on the screen. You know, Leonardo DiCaprio, Kate Winslet had great chemistry. You know, Michael Brand and Glynis Barber in Dempsey and Makepeace had great chemistry, right? And they ended up getting married, and they're still together today. It's one of the greatest love stories in the entertainment industry, if you ask me. But not everyone has great chemistry. Sometimes you can't find that chemistry, and you try your best to fake it. You know, you look at Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder as Clark and Superman and Lois. That is the best chemistry I've ever seen. I think Dean Cain and Terry Hatcher kind of had okay chemistry, and I think Terry Hatcher, being such a great actor, made it look better than what it was. But I think it's very rare. I don't think that kind of, Superman and Lois, Tyler Hoechlin and Bitsy Tulloch had the greatest of chemistry. I think it's okay. I think Tom Welling and Erica Durance had really, really good chemistry, but still not Margot Kidder, Christopher Reeve type chemistry. And Erica, such a top actor, was able to make that a successful dynamic as well. I'm not saying that Tom Welling didn't do great as well, but I think we all know that Erica Durance was definitely the better skilled actor out of her and Tom. That's not me being nasty to Tom. I love Tom. I spoke about Smallville in my previous video. Very hard to find that magical chemistry. And certainly you could argue that Natalie and Hayden didn't have that magical chemistry, but I still believed that they were in love. They still made it work, So it wasn't the greatest romance ever told, but that's difficult and rare. And I don't think we should blame a movie for not totally achieving that. But it worked. They didn't seem uncomfortable together. George did his best. No, it wasn't Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher. Because basically, well, from what I hear, they shagged in real life anyway. So, clearly there was some real chemistry. So, And, you know, Harrison and Mark Hamill and Carrie had great chemistry together. It happens. It's magic. But that, my friends, is very, very rare. And as I say, Revenge of the Sith is one of my favourite Star Wars films. To watch Natalie Portman's performance as she sees what, you know, Anakin's becoming, she says, Anakin, you're breaking my heart. That always makes me cry, the way Natalie Portman does that. And to me, it's a really compelling movie. But again, people went after Hayden for his acting. It's because people hate differences. You know, people go after films that are different. George wanted to tell the story of how Star Wars universe begun. How Darth Vader becomes Darth Vader. I think it's a very interesting story, and he did a really, really good job building it up. And obviously the original trilogy is brilliant. People went after the Return of the Jedi, didn't like the Ewoks, right? Like they didn't like Jar Jar. I thought Jar Jar was fine, but he was there for children, not for adult Star Wars fans anyway. And the Ewoks are like these, supposed to be, you know, every people. I suppose you could say they're like the Palestinians or other people who have had their countries attacked by stronger countries, fighting, making a stand. A guy with a stick can make a difference. A person with a stick who wants to fight for their homes, you know, can make a difference against a really big, powerful country. We saw that with the Vietnam War. So it's a beautiful celebration of people just fighting for their homes. Those 6 Star Wars movies are beautiful in their own right. They're their own story, but they're also a continuing saga. Now, just before I go, I want to talk about this because I think this is important. I've mentioned this before. There's many reasons why Disney Star Wars has failed. Majorly because of Kathleen Kennedy and the untalented people running Disney Star Wars. That's a major reason. But I think it's also difficult to make Star Wars without George. He knows, like Coca-Cola have a special recipe that makes Coca-Cola taste better than Pepsi or different than Pepsi, and nobody knows that secret recipe. George Lucas had that secret recipe. He told his Skywalker saga. And maybe if Disney allowed him to tell his, you know, sequel trilogy story, right? Maybe it would have been better. And a great way to finish the Skywalker saga. I think after the Skywalker saga, I don't think there's an audience for anything else. And I think once you tell the sequel trilogy, it has to end. I don't think there's any space for. I know there's lots of, you know, fans have done novels and comics. That's great. That's brilliant. You know, Big Finish and Doctor Who do the same thing. But I don't think there's the energy for more Star Wars after the Skywalker saga. George should have told his 9-episode story and then shut the book on it. And I think Disney can keep on trying and trying to make money from it. And I think money can't be made from it. Not the money that they wanted to make. We heard earlier this year that Star Wars hasn't made the money that Disney spent on buying Lucasfilm. Doesn't that prove my point? May the 4th be with you.